So when I decided to become celibate, it was because I was really just searching for something more, something more for myself. At the time, I was practicing Christianity, you know what I'm saying? And it was just an interesting time. I was like really studying my Bible, and ultimately, like I said in the book, it wasn't for me, but it allowed me to kind of, step out of this world and have the responsibility of being a sex symbol, and being a young adult. And actually, in hindsight, it was preparing me for like my contribution to music, me.
Yeah, it's interesting how he worded that of like he wanted something deeper in his life, right? He was craving something deeper, and it feels like almost like we are called to this practice. Now we don't find this practice finds us, and it's because deep down I think our souls know that this practice around celibacy, semen retention, no fap is part of a really deep spiritual evolution that we go through as men.
Being integral in my words and what I'm saying, not having to really live a double life, and at that time of being celibate, it's very weird for some people. A lot of people would be like, oh, he young, he on top of the world, he just put out an album, his number one album, like you ain't out here fucking these hoes, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, nah, it's more to life than that, you know what I mean? And by no means, I'm not here to judge anyone, because we all have our journey, you know what I mean?
And it's so different, right? When you're celibate and you actually have access to women or access to people who can be your partner, it's a much different discipline than those who can't really get, attraction in that way. And the same thing goes for adult videos, right? This is readily accessible to us at all times, and to be able to fast from that, it's a really big challenge for a lot of us.
But yeah, I just found myself in that position of wanting to, understand my energy, give myself time to grow. And also, I knew that, if I could control two areas of my life, which is food and the urge of sex, then, nothing can stop me, because as a man, we have trouble. We have trouble, what I mean, in those areas. We can have trouble in those areas. And I love women too, you know what I'm saying? So being intentional with that, being upfront about where I'm at, you know what I mean? That all came along with it.
Yeah, two things of what he said. He said he wanted to get more in touch with his energy, and when you go celibate, when you refrain from sex, when you refrain from PMO, your energy starts to really build within you, and you get more in tune with your own energy. And when you get more in tune with your own energy, you start to get more in tune with the energy around you. And I like this because he's talking about really overcoming lust. Because when you've seen men in celebrity statuses or business owners getting into these situations when they sleep with the wrong woman or they cheat on their partners, end up their business ends up failing, or they end up marrying the wrong partner for the wrong reasons because they're lost in their lust. They're marrying, because she's just really beautiful and really hot, and they end up getting divorced. If you don't conquer this lust, you can possibly marry the wrong woman who has the wrong intentions for you, right? Someone who just wants you for your money. And if you don't have control of your lusts, you're not going to be discerning of the people that you let into your life. And then you can have a baby with this child, and that can be your biggest downfall. Same with business, right? You can end up having a scandal if you don't have control of your lusts, and lust can be the downfall of the kingdom that you're trying to build, guys.
I'm saying? So yeah, that was a that was an interesting time right there. And then come to find out that Lenny Kravitz has been, celibate for however long. I'm like, wow.
That makes sense. That dude's glowing.
You
He's
feel
glowing,
me?
People
That's
who
a
are
different glow.
Yeah, when you like harness that energy in, you just start to see, like, you just start to radiate
That's facts.
life. Yeah.
celibacy, I believe that you have to be called to it. You know what I'm saying? Otherwise, it's like, why are you doing it? You know what I mean? But that was an interesting time, and it was a great time. I'm glad that I got the chance to do that.
Yeah. I find it so, there's this limb of yoga called pratyahara, which is like abstaining from senses, fasting for food, celibacy for sex.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easy to give up things when you're not tested or when things aren't so available.
Yeah.
No one wants to have sex with you. It's not that hard to not have sex.
Right, exactly.
When everybody was so available and you make that decision, you're going to be tested repeatedly and you're going to really show up and see what your resolve actually is within that.
Yeah.
And so as you made that decision, which I know was probably tough at the time, and of course, there's many paths to the same ocean bed. You know, there's many ways to find that true vibrancy, to know yourself. Sexual energy happens to be one of the most potent forms. It's why we're all here. You know,
Facts.
Harnessing that energy really allows a lot of creativity to open up.
Yeah.
And
That's
for you to
facts.
harness those distractions, so many different things.
Yeah.
What did you feel shift internally, like around your clarity of mind and how you felt internally? And then when you started to attract because of that, what did you feel like really shift because of that period?
Yeah, the person interviewing Omarion says, like, this is great for creative energy, right? So a lot of men will actually go on to this practice to actually start create businesses, start creating a life through maybe creative expression, through music, through business. And a lot of very successful men understand the power of this practice.
My connection to, the things that I were calling into my life and why, I was able to clearly see, listen to that inner voice differently. My judgment wasn't so clouded, you know what I'm saying? And I was okay with that. So during that time, and then also too, my relationship with the universe, with the proverbial God, even though I know that, that is within us in our scope, you know what I'm saying? We are gods within ourselves, having the opportunity to choose how our experience is. It helped me come into that, unencumbered of, like you said, this is like droplets of a vast ocean. And then it's like, once you start doing your research and you see how it's all relative and it's the same, might have a different name, but it serves, the same purpose energetically, that's what it allowed me to come into. And I think sometimes, for me, with my experience with religion, it kind of cuts you off from being able to experience and realizing that everyone is kind of in that same space. And you really just have to do the self-work in order to realize that actually there's many ways, and, a lot of the things that we think is wrong is actually not, So that's what it really opened me to, to have less judgment, more understanding, and more appreciation and gratitude, and how you can do certain things for yourself to, I don't want to use the word be in control, but you get to say so in how you feel about the natural things that occur.
Yeah, that's the interview for Omarion around his celibacy, and the thing that he said at the end, that you feel like you have a little bit more control. And there's a lot of information out there talking about when you start to hold this energy and start to circulate it through your being, they say that manifestation starts to come easily, right? I mean, the more you hold, the higher your frequency starts to rise, and then you attract the things at the frequency that you're vibrating at. So if you want, a lover, if you want a wife, if you want to create a business, if you want to, whatever it is, it's gonna cost a certain amount of energy to get that energy. So this energy, like he said, almost allows you to control a little bit more of your reality. All right, fellas, hope you guys enjoy that video. To the next video.